Devil or Angel. Prequel Diamond Dog romantic suspense thrillers. Written by Anne Malley. Copyright 2023.
CIA Special Agent Roham Arshad smiled with actual pleasure. Was this it? He'd prayed for a break in his dead fish case. Something had to give, though, and maybe, just maybe, the pale-faced messenger was it. Roham had spotted the guy through the cafe's partial plate glass wall. The courier stood in the lobby. Hands empty, he twitched, checking the foyer from the opposite side of the gleaming marble floor. But why? There was nothing off about couriers in the stand-up towers. DC was full of them. The courier's beanie with the winged foot logo was the novelty, at least on this side of the Beltway's premier office complex. Roham took a drink. Caffeine raced a current of mounting adrenaline. "What are you doing here?" Roham muttered beneath his breath. Mercury Messenger had struck an exclusive deal with import-export giant Fisher Enterprises, or so it seemed for the past 9 months. The interagency Diamond Dogs Group, run out of the U.S. State Department, had negotiated similar use of Roham for nearly the same period. The field agent preferred overseas assignments, inside the belly of the beast. Alone and unfettered was Roham's wheelhouse. But out for Roham would only happen once this case was over, heads rolling and bodies rotting in prison. That was the last communique from above. Orders were orders. Federal agencies had enough black eyes for going above and beyond the scope of their given charters. Operation Oversight was part of Roham's job. Was that it? Could this courier be operating above and beyond his pay grade? The designer tennis shoes sticking out beneath his black uniform pants couldn't be cheap. Roham stepped past half a dozen cozy tables. He lingered beside an accommodating ficus tree. Was this courier a willing accomplice to terror? Or did he want out like Roham? The courier was rather young, like certain persons of interest at FE. Since he'd adopted the sole care of his not-so-little sister, Roham couldn't look past age as an excuse for multiple missteps. Still, Angel LeBlanc was not Gilad. She was older in the world and keeping dangerous company. Roham cast the image of the sweet-as-you-please redhead from his mind to focus on his current lead. A fuzzy face, a painfully skinny build, and an unseasonably heavy jacket rounded out the courier's description. Roham took a drink. The courier cozied up to a stone planter next. He dandled leaves like a frat pledge, flipping skirts for rush week points. Whatever. The courier continued to fish around beneath the waxy leaves. Was the kid delivering or dropping off? Whatever his mission, he gulped once, then took off. Roham followed the courier through a swelling group, making for the elevator bay. The kid peered side to side, adjusting his jacket. A bulge appeared on the courier's right hip. That wasn't there before. Roham straightened the line of his sports coat. He moved deeper into the crowd. Next, he pretended concern over his trimmed beard and ponytail for the moments it took the courier to finish glancing over his shoulder. The kid zigzagged, then pressed ahead toward the elevators. He stabbed the button for the 5th floor, what Roham thought was the 5th floor, considering the limited view granted him. Roham's lungs still froze. Arshad & Sons had offices on the 5th floor. The investment firm was his operational cover. Heartbeats became hammers. Was it possible? Had Roham blown his cover? Had Jalen Booker, Roham's FBI counterpart, been outed? The misplaced courier may be a hit in the making. It seemed a stretch, yet the messenger may have picked up a weapon in that planter. A gun would reshape the line of his jacket. Jet fuel pumped Roham's spasming muscles. The elevator doors opened. The courier shoved outgoing traffic aside. Roham plowed through shuffling execs and board bean counters. A well-dressed woman with cinnamon perfume blocked his way. Roham feinted left. He tried to edge past her, but no. He suppressed a growl. With her shoulders reared, the woman matched his every dodge. She stuck him with angry eyes. Her outrage was justified if she was merely a bystander, but that may not be the case. An ugly pucker claimed his face. "Really?" the woman huffed, inspecting him from head to foot. "A Brooks Brothers suit is definitely not the making of the man in this case." "I'm sorry," Roham lied. He was sorry, though. The woman may be just a woman. The courier may have no motive beyond avoiding embarrassment. He could be a drug dealer or an addict. The elevator doors closed, but not before the courier flashed a panicked expression. "Young man," the woman cleared her throat. I'm sorry, Roham repeated. Please excuse me. Coffee in hand, he swung toward the stairwell. He'd need his usual prop, should this lead prove to be another dead end. It wouldn't, though. Roham refused to believe it. With the courier's owl eyes branded into his brain, he slipped into the stairwell. He charged up to the first landing and peered into the hallway. Sweat broke out above the slash mouth he fought to maintain. The courier's choice of destination may have been a diversion. There was no sign of him in the traffic exiting on the first floor. Curses flew beneath Roham's breath. He powered up to the next flight and peered into the hallway. Passengers got on and off. The courier was nowhere in sight. The cycle repeated until the fifth floor lay just above. Dread gave Roham a massive head rush. He called his office. The line funneled into voicemail. Jalen preferred to focus when he filed reports. He'd make an easy target with his head down, if not for expert training. Roham called again with no answer. He reached the fifth floor. Nostrils taut, he poked his head into the corridor. Random passengers exited the elevator, deflating his red alert. He waited, though, just to be sure, when owl eyes pegged him. Roham's heart exploded. The courier bolted. Roham followed with gritted teeth as fast as he dared. Running was out. The courier may be high, in the middle of a drug deal, or any number of things. Roham needed to maintain his cover if possible. The courier may only be a courier, whatever Roham's suspicions were, and covers were hard to come by. He rewrapped fingers around his still hot coffee and kept going. He kept eyes on the courier. The kid and his beanie disappeared around a corner. Roham trotted just shy of a run. A door swung open to his left. The antiques agent with the bleached curls rethought stepping outside. He clutched a jade statue to his ample stomach. You break it, you buy it, he cautioned. Naturally. I'm late for a meeting. Roham carried on down the hall, rounded the corner when wham. Dirt plants and a floppy box flew. Coffee swished out his cup sip hole. What the? Roham steadied himself. A small white hand flicked grime off his tie. I'm so sorry. It's fine. Really? There's coffee on your shirt. Oh my. Oh my was right. Angel LeBlanc, FE's phenom export agent, blinked up at him. Sweet, petite, and oozing a light jasmine perfume. She looked even more naive at close range with that heart-shaped face. But who better to gull unwary investors and clients alike? Rookie mistakes like mooning over persons of interest was beneath him. She was still pawing him. With cause, he added silently. But there was no justification for LeBlanc being in the wrong tower. She typically busied herself courting fussy clients, not running interference for hapless couriers. LeBlanc did her best to look like Little Bo Peep, too, complete with pouting lips and the doe eyes that shouldn't affect him the way they did. Roham allowed her to rustle his tie. Why not? He'd already peered past her to his office. There was no hubbub behind the plate glass. There was mischief before him, though, just over 5 feet. His palms sweat. Did you see that courier? He asked tightly. He nearly knocked me over, so yes. I saw him all right. More likely, LeBlanc was covering for a partner in crime. It was better that Roham think of her that way. She patted her front now, and with a delicacy that unnerved him all the more. Was this young hopeful collateral damage in the making? LeBlanc and the courier may have agreed to turn informant for all he knew. They may be working another angle. Blackmail could fund a closet of fancy tennis shoes and designer skirt suits like the one hugging LeBlanc to perfection. The adjacent tower was a convenient meeting place, close to FE, but far enough away from the company they planned to bilk. Roham reassessed the girl, nibbling her lower lip. Whatever her motives, distraction was her game. Her bat of lashes confirmed his assessment. I should apologize, Roham said. Her smile was instantaneous. What for? I've assaulted your plants. What? No. I most certainly have. Now come with me to my office, he said. She cocked her head. If you're okay with that, he qualified. Gilad was always reminding him to ask. We'll take care of all this. We will? In your office? LeBlanc squeaked. Yes. We can repot the lot. I have a mini dust brush. He wanted information on her boss Ken Fisher too, as much as he could gather. Your flowers don't look that much worse for wear. My patience, you mean? Patience? A silly idea, she said with a shrug. I am silly sometimes, though. That can be good. Thanks. LeBlanc seemed relieved, but not Roham. I've been tasked with rehabilitating the bloomless things. I was, she continued. The redhead allowed herself a discreet inspection of Roham, a look intended to seem discreet. His hair, eyes, smile, and everything tingled beneath her appraisal. LeBlanc's patience took a back seat, much like protocol. But Roham owned his slip into rookie mode. We can still save them, he said, if we don't leave the roots exposed for too long. A cough sounded behind him. Roham twisted. The antiquarian passed, eyelids dropping, as if to say, I told you so. Roham squatted, collecting half-emptied pots into LeBlanc's box. We'd best get these babies up off the floor or someone may stomp them, he said. You know about plants. LeBlanc crouched before him. Enough. Enough to earn her trust.
Chapter 2. Angel held her breath as they both stood minutes later. Just a sec, okay? I've got this, he said of the box balanced on his flat palm. The box wasn't Angel's problem, even though it would make sense for her to grab it with both hands. She was the problem. She'd actually branded herself as silly. She suppressed a groan, slipped off a heeled shoe, and spilled the dirt between rumpled leaves. Meanwhile, a manly chest exuding mind-blowing cologne filled her line of sight. She was blowing this chance encounter, however. An attitude adjustment was necessary. Calm adult exchange was required of her, not gushing like the child she so didn't want to be. The man before her was legit. He was an adult, a gentleman. His sculpted whiskers and ponytail matched the description of the coffeehouse hero, too. In the aftermath of tip jar theft, Roham something, the stand-up Avenger, had purportedly set about to right wrongs. And without hitting on anyone as a presumed reward. A hit from a guy like this is exactly what Angel wanted, though. There was no point lying to herself. She'd been attracted to older men long before she'd graduated magna cum laude, snagging a master's degree at the tender age of 19. That was a while ago. This was now. Helicopter mothers were nowhere in sight. With a shiver, Angel assessed the individual, making her blood tumble through her veins. His clothes were high quality, stylish not stuffy, and strands of silver kissed his temples. Wow. His olive eyes were shot with gold. They were too yummy almost, even without the deep blue halos highlighting their undeniable magnetism. Uncontrollable admiration threatened. Angel tended her other shoe to hide her monster blush. She tried to read the name on the coffee cup, but it was turned the wrong way. Her dream dude stared straight at her, though. He touched her soul with a searching that moved her like nobody had. Sparks had to be flying between them. That wasn't true, obviously. This guy may be a man of steel, but X-ray vision couldn't make wishes take solid form. She was touched in the head, if anything. Control was her motto, however, no matter how much her toes tingled. She wanted this interview to last as long as possible. To that end, she dipped to retrieve a pair of clear plastic trays that they'd missed on the floor and played her best card. I should thank you, she said. For what? A little bird told me about your good deed. What good deed? He seemed put off. You promised to avenge the cafe theft, Angel said. She took to her feet, setting the trays inside the box. The barista tip jar was looted, she added. Was it? Yes, he said. Someone of your description replaced the stolen cash with a crisp $100 bill. Oh yes, he said at last. I remember now. It's been a while. Did you see him then? The thief? I thought so, yes, he answered. That courier looked familiar. Well then, she said, biting back a grin. I'm doubly sorry that I interfered with your citizen's arrest. It's all right. I'll get him. Now come on. We need to retrieve the rest of this dirt before some eager janitor vacuums it up. Roham, that was his name, moved toward Arshad and Son's glassed-in foyer. He pushed the door open while still managing to hold his coffee and the plants. When he gestured for Angel to scoot in beneath his extended arm, she thought she'd faint, stupid but true. Faint heart never won hunky hero, though. With a firm directive not to blush anymore, she entered what she hoped would be an entirely different existence.
Roham exhaled relief, despite his having already determined that all was well at Arshad and Sons. Seeing was always believing. There was no blood splashed on the carpet. No grunts of pain filled the temperature-controlled air. Desks, sofa, and club chairs were all in their proper place. He moved inside the office behind LeBlanc. She was a tangible lead, he told himself, not a romantic prospect. That wasn't on his radar. It shouldn't be. With a glance around the room, he prepared to drop the coffee and box to draw the .9mm he insisted on carrying if need be. But there was no threat. No immediate threat, anyway. Jalen wasn't making his presence known, though. LeBlanc smiled as if she wasn't already doing so. Her cheeks had to be hurting. Roham's clenched jaw complained nonstop. He wasn't exactly following the program by getting cozy with LeBlanc, but leads were leads. The feds required an iron-tight case, considering the players involved with FE. His bosses would laud him if he managed to turn Angel. Roham was getting ahead of himself. He set the plant box on a table when a mechanical clunk sent a jolt up his spine. "The copy machine?" "Jalen," he called. "Who else?" Jalen joked without showing himself. "You're late. I've missed my window to meet our contact downtown. But I've got something for you." Roham's FBI counterpart waltzed into view from behind a pop-up office wall. His t-shirt and khaki slacks projected the role of the casual consultant. He stiffened, though, communicating shock that Roham hoped LeBlanc had missed. "Hello," Jalen said to Angel. She chuckled with obvious nerves. "Hi. Sorry to barge in. You're busy and—" "You're not barging," Roham said when her words trailed. He made swift introductions. "Whatever Jalen's got going can wait." Roham gave the FBI agent a back-me-up nod, then took a drink of his coffee. He took a longer drink of the operator in 2 high heels and the perkiest perk he'd ever seen. LeBlanc was too much to be true. Nobody was that squeaky clean. "So, what's the purpose of your visit?" Jalen asked. "Not that I mind," he assured LeBlanc. "Are you looking to expand your investment portfolio?" "I'm the problem," Roham said. LeBlanc palmed her forehead. "Stop. You're not at fault." "No. I may have caused the death of countless patients," Roham continued. "If we don't get a move on, that is." "He's talking about African violets," Angel half laughed. "There are only 6, and they're fine for the moment." "They'll be fine." Roham mirrored the export agent's sweet demeanor. "Once we get them tucked into the dirt that I spewed all over the hallway." "You attacked her plants?" Jalen asked with underlying meaning. Observation was their game, not confrontation. Roham collected the dustpan and brush he used to clean up pistachio shells. "I saw someone I knew in the corridor and took the corner too fast," he said. "Keep a watch on things, would you?" "I'll only be a moment." "Another moment, sure," his partner said. Jalen craned his head as if saying further explanation may wait, but it was definitely expected. Roham had no idea what to expect as he snagged another dose of caffeine. The courier had obviously changed plans if he'd been headed to Roham's office at all. Roham may be overthinking. The courier may be the thief. He could have heard the same description LeBlanc mentioned. Roham hadn't gotten a look at the guy who'd taken the barista's cash. He'd promised to catch the thief to put the barista at ease, encouraging her to file a report with building security. "You really don't have to help me," Angel said. Roham lifted his chin. "But—" "The crash and burn were my fault," she interrupted. "No, not entirely," he admitted. Pushing too hard would backfire, so he followed her ingenue attitude. "It takes 2. LeBlanc let herself sigh. "I suppose." "I'd like to repair the damage done to your babies," he continued softly. Roham would turn her mention of the thief into opportunity. He'd identify the courier beyond outward appearances if he were lucky. "But you're busy and—" LeBlanc interrupted her own excuse. Roham was confused at her sudden reluctance. "You said you wanted to thank me for championing our barista?" "Yes." "So thank me." "Let me help," he said with a forward step. "I don't bite."
Chapter 3. Mom, I have to go. Really? Angel said over the phone decades later. Time always passed like sludge when a person wanted something. Angel wanted a date. The promise of more than being a mere acquaintance was welcome too. But when given the chance in Roham's office, she'd retreated into insecurity, apologizing for nothing and feeling out of place. There was no reason for it. Nothing outside Angel's imagination. Roham was an adult, but so was she. She stood tall on the perimeter of the stand-up coffee shop's extended seating, now prepared. "I have an appointment," she said. Angel had no desire to reconnect with Chandler goodnight either, despite her mother's wishes. Angel had given the Ivy Leaguer the boot because she knew how he spent his nights. She'd also concocted the perfect plan to run into Roham, who she hadn't seen in weeks. Resistance was futile. At least that's what Angel told herself. She had legitimate reason to meet with Roham, though. Her friend Dunya Nasiri had sprung a charity ball on Angel and she needed a +1. Roham was perfect for the job. He was polished, poised, and he could glean new clients amid the Nasiri's well-heeled guests. Meanwhile, Angel could get to know him better, much better she hoped. Failure to attend was non-optional even though big gatherings made her queasy. Angel believed in charitable giving, not talk. She'd make an anonymous donation to the Nasiri's charity too, what she preferred when giving. Dunia wanted Angel to capture the shipping contracts for her parents' chip manufacturing business. The setup was a pure win-win, even though Angel squirmed at her impure intentions. But hey, she wrote donations off on her taxes and she'd never lost sleep over that. Roham Arshad was another matter. Even if Angel was fantasizing about her first on-her-own boyfriend, Roham would benefit by attendance. Crescent Circuit had incredible potential, and the silence on the other end of the phone grated. Angel refused to budge and speak first. Her squishy insides had no qualms, however. Anxiety vented itself by way of unflattering rumbles which only caused more nerves. Jumbo parties weren't her thing. Scheduling happenstance encounters wasn't either. But a girl had to do what a girl had to do. Angel wasn't comfortable asking Roham for a favor on the phone. She wanted to swim a while in those outrageous eyes of his, too. He'd say yes. He had to say yes. Being hit on for lack of an escort tonight would only make Angel feel like the world was the jungle her mother had described. Like 2 seconds ago. Angel focused on a cozy two-seater where she imagined sitting with Roham. The table was semi-secluded and blessedly devoid of other people's discarded cups. Meanwhile, maternal disapproval communicated itself in a frosty hiss. "So be it. Whoever you're meeting must be late," her mom said at last. "How would you know? Who schedules appointments at 8 minutes past?" "Mom." Angel was early. "Okay. Fine. I miss you, sweetie." "I miss you too," Angel said. Her mother sighed. "Great. I'll keep you company while you wait." The senior LeBlanc continued conversation with talk of medical insurance, Angel's need of it, and her parents' ability to still carry her on their policy. Angel fingered her bangs. "Thanks. You're right, Mom. I can't do without it, and you never know." "You don't, so there's no need for attitude and no sense having you pay for insurance when you should be saving your pennies." "No. You're right." Wrong, Angel thought. "Have you thought about joining a bridge club?" her mother asked. "You're quite good, better than most, and—" "I'm not retired," Angel interrupted. "Unless you've changed your mind about me socializing with an older crowd." Her mother hated it when Angel had drawn male attention from men 3 times her age. "Well, mahjong then, or I don't know," her mother huffed. "What video games are popular these days?" "A gamer isn't what I'm looking for." "What are you looking for, Angel? No strings? Friends with benefits?" "Mother." Angel bit her lip. "I haven't shucked my morals. I don't know who you've been talking to, but stop worrying." "I can't help it. Worrying is what mothers do. Worrying and waiting is the mantra I recall." "Okay. I'll wait on you," her mom relented as Angel re-upped her commitment to be patient. Roham would come through. "But whatever you do, avoid oversharing." "What?" "You don't want a stranger knowing everything about you, especially not in a big city when you're all alone." "You're right again," Angel said to avoid argument. She had spilled most everything about herself that first day with Roham, however. Most likely, he was fully aware of her interest the moment their eyes had met. Talk of advanced coursework, the constant moves because of her father's government work, her faith, the drive to establish herself in her own right, were all hanging out like factory white pillowcases waiting to obtain that tattletale gray. Angel had mentioned Chandler too, and having only 2 friends. Who did that? Silly singletons, that's who. Angel rubbed her forehead. She'd done the info dump with Dunia and Tina too. Angel had met Dunia at Curve's gym. The both of them had marveled over a particularly space-age elliptical machine and the built trainer who had explained how to operate it. Tina was Angel's assistant. All 3 women were friends now. That may be all Roham wanted, if anything. Should Angel put on the brakes of her runaway romance train? The 24 hybrid African violets he had delivered to her office may be his way of schmoozing eager young things in need of investment advice. The same might apply to Roham's coffee shop heroics. Who knew? Acid pumped up her esophagus. Her nerves sizzled beneath her skin as she accepted the truth. She'd been an idiot. Still, the intelligence Tina had gathered on Angel's behalf said that Mr. Arshad would be here at 1:15 for his afternoon caffeine infusion. Angel glanced at the mezzanine. Tina appeared jogging as usual during break time. Tina's benign expression revealed nothing as she took the stairs down. "I love you," Angel told her mother. "We'll talk soon." "But you've told me nothing about him." "Him who?" "Your appointment," her mother squeaked. "Did you meet him at church? Are you going to church?" "There's nobody, Mom." Angel would dish about Roham if there was something to report. She doubted she'd have anything more than a stock tip to share as Tina approached. "Won't you even meet with Chandler?" her mom wheedled. "No," Angel repeated her earlier objection. "He was young when you dated, a little controlling, but young men often are. With a lovely, principled young woman on his arm, he had a duty to be protective." "Protective isn't it? Control issues can grow into." "There's no need to revisit this," her mother snapped. "We don't agree." Mrs. LeBlanc had already excused Chandler's aggressive behavior as a stage. "I've got to go," Angel said as Tina sidled up with a smirk. "But you two used to get along so well." "Chandler has a fantastic future ahead," her mother insisted. "If only he has the right woman to stand beside him." "Got it," Angel said sarcastically. "Mock me now, but I know of what I speak." Her mother wouldn't stop until Angel was married with 5 kids or locked in her mom's closet. "Chandler is from a solid Christian family. You can't find better than that." "A solid family is no assurance of perfection, Mom." "Fine." The whisper was a scream. "Chandler's moving to Virginia just the same, and I might have." Motherly directives trailed into silence. "Might have what?" Angel asked. "Nothing out of the ordinary. You two should meet after all, if only for closure." "I don't need closure, Mom." "Relationships take 2, dear. Chandler will be in touch." "In touch how?" "The normal way." "Stop making such a big deal, Angel." "Really? You didn't?" Angel raged inside. Her personal details were her own to give or not. "Of course she would," Tina mouthed. She'd heard everything, judging from the compassionate glance she cast Angel. Angel's forehead pulsed. "How could you, Mom?" "Don't date him." "Fine," was the hot reply. "Chandler is an old friend, however, and good breeding alone should incite you to do the polite thing." "My new telephone number or my address?" Angel asked with depleted patience. "What did you give him?" "Both." Her mom was probably grinning now. Chandler wanted to stop by. "Where's the harm in that?" "No harm, Mom?" There was no more harm than usual with her mom seeing only what she wanted to see. Angel wasn't dissimilar. She wanted to think of Roham Arshad as perfection itself. That may or may not be true. She was a businesswoman, though, and professional contacts were a necessity. Friendship may grow, maybe into what she'd hoped for, but pushing like her mother wasn't the way. "Give Dad my love," Angel said. "I'll try to call next week." "Okay. Your father and I can talk tomorrow." "I can't," Angel muttered. "New clients are sucking up every second I have." "You should balance professional life with something personal, Angel, and love you." Angel spoke over her mother, then disconnected the phone. "Your mom sounds like mine," Tina said. "We just had a run-in that makes me question why I answer my phone at all. But turn that frown upside down, Missy, and scoot behind that greenery." Angel did as she was directed, rethinking her plan of attack.
"She's having you followed," Jalen said. He trailed Roham down the stairs. They'd both seen the girls move behind the plants. Innocent young things don't operate that way. Take off the rosy glasses and slap your federal agent hat where it belongs, he whispered. If Angel is dirty, this relationship you're cultivating by playing hard to get might backfire. She'll be asking about you, digging into your details to get the scoop that you're withholding. And if she's wholly innocent? If Angel's only crime is finding you irresistible? Jalen kept saying that. Those are your words. I'm a person of interest to her. Nothing more. Exactly. You're a person of interest to her for whatever reason, and if this Angel is pure as holy snow, you're putting a kill me sticker on her pretty little forehead. Anyone in the know will end her if they suspect we're feds. That she, you know what I mean, and you know better. You worry too much. Roham was concerned, though. That's why he hadn't responded to Angel's note of appreciation for the flowers. I'm letting her down easy, okay? Right now, at that coffee shop where she's planning to happen upon me by accident. Great. I'll put that in my next briefing. I'm sure Driscoll appreciates your thoroughness. Dex Driscoll is thorough because he has to keep dark operations ongoing. But you're risking who knows what because you've been doing the stoic bachelor thing too long. Says the man who's put a ring on it but won't set a date. This isn't about me, Jalen said. You're lucky I don't send reports on conversations between you and Brandy up the chain. Roham never would. Your fiancé is ready to explode whatever you're up to all day and all night without a concrete explanation. Classified programs weren't meant for sharing, even with family. Whatever. Jalen stopped short at the bottom of the stairs on the main landing. Driscoll is sending someone to oversee our progress, so step lightly yourself. I'll do that. Enjoy your coffee. Roham took issue with Driscoll sending a babysitter. That job was his. That job was one that Roham had let slip, obviously, but at least he knew that Angel was an innocent. She couldn't know anything about Ken Fisher's dealings and maintain that sunshine attitude. His heart and mind were in constant conflict since they'd met. The war was a constant reminder that Roham should avoid the female company Jalen insisted would make things better. Still, Roham relished the beaming smile Angel threw him moments later when he made a lazy beeline to the coffee counter. Dressed in a sky-blue skirt with a matching blazer, her red hair up and nothing but sugar rolling off of her, Angel was irresistible. We meet again, he said. Yes, fancy that. It was bound to happen, she said with a shrug. I have an addiction to afternoon sweeties. Yet I've never seen you at the coffee shop before. I usually break down a little earlier in the afternoon, but I was held up. Business. Her blush heated to a flattering rose. I understand completely. Shall we share a table? Sure, she said. Great. I'm actually glad we bumped into each other. Oh, why is that? She asked with a gulp. To clear the air. She shied her eyes. We should talk is the message he'd sent, despite using other words. It was the equivalent of a Dear Jane letter, written before Jane and whoever wrote the note had their first date. Roham told the man behind the counter to add Angel's bill to his tab, then paid with cash. He led her toward a table for two, away from other patrons, and prepared to break his own heart. That's the reason he'd preferred keeping it on ice. Angel took a seat. She turned him another winning grin. Those are some gorgeous flowers behind you. Tiger lilies, he said, scooting his chair closer to the table. Yes, tiger lilies. Beautiful, she muttered. That said, I'm glad we happened upon each other too. This is awkward, so please let me go first. Absolutely. Go ahead. I wanted to say no, that's not right. I need to say that while I love the violets you sent, that's it. She hit him with wide, popped eyes as if he'd made a pass at her. That's it what? Roham asked. I may have given you the wrong impression, talking on when we met, and then being too personal in that note. Appreciating a man's kindness isn't too personal, he said. Thank you for that, but we're both adults. I'm a single woman, and you're a single man. And was she friend-zoning him? I'm not looking for anything more than friendship, Roham. Like I said, she went on. I only have a couple of friends, and having said that. You'd like to be friends, he pressed. If that's okay with you. She lifted her chin, and Roham was at a loss to read her. I may ask your advice on some investments if that's okay. Sure, he croaked. But I'm truly sorry if I misled you. Those violets were spectacular, though. Do you treat all of your prospective clients that way? Not all, but I thought you'd appreciate the new crossbreeds. Oh, I do. Absolutely, she said. Violets are the only flowers that seem to like me. I like you as a friend. Great. I have a favor to ask. That was fast. Roham's brows beetled, but it couldn't be helped. His innocent assessment took a dive too. Well, I'm sorry, I'm teasing, he said. What can I do for you? Roham hated believing that Angel may have tailored herself just for him. Had Ken Fisher directed her to get close to federal agents? Who could say? The man who preferred his women demure, and only on those rare occasions that he allowed himself something beyond work, was an easy read, apparently. Angel had closed in on Roham in ways he'd never imagined, without even trying. It's okay. What is it? There's this party tonight and Angel stopped to sigh. I'm reluctant to go alone. Then don't go, Roham said more gruffly than he should. Angel narrowed her eyes again, but made nothing of his tone. I have to attend. Why, he asked. Was Ken Fisher using Angel to schmooze clients? It's business. There's this company, she said. Crescent Circuit. Dunia has been trying to get me into the right circles to increase my profile at work. Her parents, they own the company, are having a little party at their home tonight. For charity. Tell me more. Roham egged her on calmly despite the heat taking over his head. Business is all I'm about, like I said. That's it, she emphasized. I wanted an escort tonight. Someone I'm certain wouldn't try anything. You've been burned? Roham asked. I'm not inexperienced, Angel answered with a somewhat miffed expression. Is there another Chandler that you need me to talk to? Angel sat up straight. If I talk as all there was and I was another woman, I may say yes. I see. So, she continued. Are you free tonight? No. No, I'm not, he forced himself to say. I have an evening appointment. All right then. That settles that. Angel. He keyed on the trembling in her jaw. Oh, please. I'll be fine. She swallowed delicately. I just thought you may benefit too. There will be plenty of high rollers at this event. My having an escort would have made it easier for me to focus without offending anyone. That's all. Maybe next time. Thank you for thinking of me. Of course. We're friends. Roham tore into his pastry. Could he go to the party with Angel? Did he dare? Give me the address. I'll see if I can make it. Better late than never. Driscoll's hand-picked overseer might want to exploit the situation. No, that's okay. Maybe next time. Angel collected coffee and pastry. Thanks for this, he said, reaching for her arm. Angel moved out of reach. Thanks for paying. I'll buy next time. There's no need. Of course there is, she countered. Now I should get back to work. Have a great rest of your day.
Chapter 4. Hours later, alone on the Nasiri's balcony-covered porch, Angel waited for her ride home. That was typical for a woman without a car, and Dunia had refused to let her friend take an Uber to or from the party that night. A trip from Alexandria to Angel's DC apartment cost too much, even if it could be written off on taxes. That's what Dunia had said, but then she wanted an excuse to leave the party early if necessary. The number of eligible males outstripped the ladies at these events, and tonight was no exception. Angel understood. Single status was a burden in a room full of eager escorts. She'd held her own for the most part, even without Roham on her arm, although there was one guest who made Angel's skin creep. Still, lizard eyes had followed her everywhere until she'd made her escape to the porch. She brushed her bare arms and keyed on the bug song filling the air. Anxiety filled her. All creeping aside, the Nasiris insisted that their daughter stay put. Charitable givers needed encouragement. Dunia did not have to go to work in the morning either. Angel did not have to call for a ride either. Dunia's cousin of a cousin of a cousin declared in front of company that he'd escort Angel home. Collective brows had risen too high for comfort. Her forlorn expression probably hadn't helped. She plastered a smile on her face now, if only to practice. What could she have said? Thanks but no thanks? Farhad Nasiri's gesture was kind, even if Angel wanted away from male attention. If the setup was intended to get Angel a boyfriend was anyone's guess. The thought wasn't outrageous. Farhad hadn't flirted with her though, not exactly. His charm had been equally distributed on all the ladies, young and old. He was kind and cute too, in a skinny silver suit and trim beard. He wasn't Roham though. Angel groaned. She'd realized tonight, despite affirmations, pep talks and mulling plans of attack, that she had it bad. Angel was crushing on a man who only wanted hands on her non-existent portfolio. Roham's lack of interest stung. Her mother's warnings about oversharing were right up there too. Instead of remaining aloof at the cafe that afternoon, Angel had dumped everything about this party. That and her desire to make points at work. She felt so exposed, and yet Angel stopped imagination right there. Hoping wasn't having though. No wonder Roham viewed her with disinterest. She was a geyser of girlishness with no cap, not in his presence anyway. Her soul sobbed. That was a novel development that she had no desire to continue. Discomfort begged the question, however. Was soul pain the motive behind Chandler's desire to touch base? Did Angel's old boyfriend still have feelings? Was closure his objective? Chandler had been controlling, no question. He'd stalked her by modern standards. But hadn't Angel attempted the same in her plan to corral Roham? Shame added to the wriggling inside her stomach. The breeze picked up. Angel's skin prickled all over. She should have brought a sweater. Her mother would have insisted that Angel take a wrap. Her green dress was off the shoulder after all. Her daughter, meanwhile, would insist that she was being smothered. Oh, the pain. That's love, though, caring in the face of ingratitude. Angel squeezed eyes shut while guilt came on like a cold shower. Okay, not a shower, but disgust in oneself was more than unpleasant. Angel had been rough on the phone. Brutal even. It was her mother's being right that grated the most, though. Thankfully, Angel hadn't blabbed to the lizard man. She wasn't completely guileless. Angel was no angel either. She'd initially kept Chandler's behavior a secret because he'd had dirt on her. Angel had lied on occasion, changing clothes at friends' houses to attend the forbidden parties. Things happened. Drugs, drinking, outrageous behavior. That's how Angel learned that she wasn't a fan. Whatever her past, Angel understood that upholding values wasn't easy, especially if a woman of any age kept putting herself in the occasion of falling. Enough of that, though. She'd focus on friendship, not agendas. She wanted to earn the Nasiri's business, not wheedle them. She did not want Roham's insides twisting whenever he saw her either. Rubbing her bare arms again, she tried steeping interest in Farhad's brand new Boxster Porsche. The bright yellow car looked like an oversized beetle. She'd come outside to avoid the lizard, but come on. Angel twisted round. She peeked in one huge paned window. Farhad was still stopping every other step to converse with friends and relatives. He was being polite. The man who'd pressed his attentions on Angel was impolite. By her way of thinking. From deep inside the house, he stared at her. Hard. Angel froze like the petrified rabbit she'd never admit to being. What was his deal? The lizard lifted his glass in salute. His gem-studded cufflinks flashed beneath the overhead chandelier. His veneer teeth did much the same. Angel whipped around to face the deepening shadows cast across the treed lane ahead. Her spine was alive with yuck. Goosebumps danced to the trickle of water from the marble fountain inside the circular drive. Why had she looked? Why couldn't Farhad be rude enough to dash outside and take her home? She could question until she was blue, literally. Meanwhile, the man who'd called himself Lucky commanded unwanted recollections. He'd insisted that Angel make full use of the bar provided for guests. One real drink wouldn't offend anyone, certainly not her hosts who'd made accommodations for everyone in attendance, whatever their religious affiliation. Angel was skittish. The man was correct, but that made engaging with him all the worse. Angel hated being read. She wasn't proud of herself either for branding anyone distasteful for nothing more than, she didn't know what. Her upper lip quivered. Did she look as if she needed marinating before he pounced? In light of her admirer's nickname, one had to wonder. But even as she judged, she judged herself for projecting her unease on a hapless target. Angel wasn't wearing a sack, and noticing women is what men did, whatever their age or religious persuasion. The majority of those present at the party had business on the brain, money, not monkey business. She'd engaged with a good portion of them during Fisher Enterprise exchanges at the office. The acknowledgement gave her leeway to exhale. A soft cough sounded. Angel jumped. Dunia joined her friend on the porch. "I'm so sorry about Roham, and you know. Jabba the Hutt with the champagne salute?" Angel blurted. "That's the humongous toad thing from Star Wars? Right?" Angel nodded with the hint of a grin. "The guy is wearing enough bling for me to take Leia's cue." "Seriously? You'd choke a man out with his own chain until his tongue stuck out?" "Permanently," Angel said with another glance through the window. "I'd pay to see that, but Jabba isn't the only warty creature with grab hands." "I suppose not." Angel moved toward the stairs leading toward the gravel drive. "I need to get experience, though, and your parents wouldn't allow anything too awful." "Absolutely not," Dunia agreed. "But my parents want me married." Angel winced. "Are those your prospects?" Dunia chuckled. "Oppressive, parental expectation is a non-sectarian phenomenon. That's all I know. But Cousin Farhad will behave himself. I'm sure." "He'd better." Angel feigned a judo chop. Dunia looped her arm around Angel's waist, and the two women stepped onto the crunchy gravel. The fountain's gurgles became louder and more unsettling in the protracted silence. "What is it?" Angel asked. "There's talk about me and Farhad," Dunia answered wryly. "No." Angel forced her eyes not to pop. She had no desire to add to Dunia's discomfort, and that's what a horrified face would do. "I shouldn't have said that." "It's okay." Dunia smoothed hands across her gown's embroidered front. Her stylish hijab rippled in the breeze as Angel tucked flyaway hair behind her ears. "If only I ran the world," Angel grumbled. "I wish Roham had come," Dunia said wistfully as they waited on Farhad. "Why?" Angel asked. "Did Dunia want company walking down the aisle? I'd like to vet this superhero of yours to ensure he deserves you." "Deal." Angel kept friend-zone confessions to herself. "I'll do the same to whoever gets pushed on you." "Farhad or Jabba," she teased. "That's no joke. I'd love for you to grill Farhad on your ride home." "Roham's already offered his services," Angel said. "He'll rough up unwanted individuals of the male persuasion, like I said." "This Roham is a good guy," Dunia said. "You're blessed to have bumped into him." "Yes, I am." Angel smiled brightly, then peered around at the skinny-suited Farhad whose booming chuckle told her he'd made it outside. He was scrumptious, even if he wasn't Roham. Farhad's orchid boutonniere was bold, yet he wore it well. She could do without the sudden smugness veiling his face. Unlike before, Farhad radiated a presumption that he was all that. He stalled on the porch, chatting more with male attendees of all varieties. Were the men discussing Dunia, or Angel, or both? "Farhad," Dunia called sharply with a flip of fingers. "Come on. Angel needs to get home. She has a job to get to in the morning." "You see? It starts," he told sniggering company, then trotted down the steps. He kissed Dunia on the cheek. "I'll be back soon." "Have you been drinking?" Dunia asked. "One glass of wine to be social." "No more," he answered with a slow smile. "I thought you were the woman who wanted to toss her hijab, Dunia." "That's not quite true," Dunia said. "But are you?" "I'm fine to drive," he interrupted. "Truly." Angel bit her lip. "I'll call an Uber. The drive isn't short and you don't want to miss the fun." "Fun?" Farhad swiped his beard. "I'll be a joke if I return without having escorted you to your front stoop." Others insisted that I do Dunia the honor of taking care of her friend. That's why I said what I said. No offense. "I'm sorry," Angel muttered. "No, I should apologize." "I'm happy to drive you," he said to Angel. Dunia adjusted her hijab. "You'd better be, Farhad." Angel blanched. "One glass of wine? That was all?" "That's all I dared in this company." Farhad crossed his heart. "Now return to your guests, Dunia. Your friend is perfectly safe in my charge." I'm sorry I had to be pushed to do the right thing. Thank you, Angel said. Amazingly, she felt somewhat better once they were in the car. Farhad thanked her profusely for sparing his ego, and she had to wonder. Had she misread him too? Was she being skittish? The thought of Chandler may unsettle her, but he would never repeat the road rage incident that Angel had kept from her mother. There was no need to blacken his name. But Chandler was a working adult now, with just as much reason to make good as Angel had. The lucky lizard was securely in the house. And Angel's mom hadn't hired clandestine bodyguards. Farhad's engine rumbled to a start. Angel had almost shut her eyes, intending to breathe deeply, when a bushy-bearded cousin tapped on Farhad's driver's side window. She'd assumed that he was a cousin. With a smile, she settled deeper into plush leather and awaited her opportunity to question Dunia's intended.
Roham's earpiece crackled where he sat inside an unmarked dark blue sedan. He was parked across the street, yards away from the Crescent Circuit party, close but not too close to the vulnerable redhead in the green dress. The rest of the surveillance team waited inside a service van a few clicks north. The team consisted of Jalen and Sella Ellis, their new babysitter. Roham had come to terms with being checked on, but Ellis wasn't the right choice by his way of thinking. Ellis and Driscoll were dating. A big no-no in most organizations, as romantic notions tended to skew perspectives. Any judgment was hypocritical, of course. Wanted or not, feelings Roham typically suppressed bubbled beneath his skin this very moment. He developed a rash long before Angel and Farhad Nasiri cozied up inside his bright yellow porch. Discomfort was the order of this day, however. Ellis had been read into the Fisher Enterprise operation and tasked with taking charge. She'd already charged Roham with remaining parked unless otherwise instructed. He would comply. A stateside desk awaited troublemakers. Ellis hadn't said as much precisely, yet her every gesture shouted step off. Roham ached to say that, and more to Farhad Nasiri. But it was the goon preventing Nasiri from leaving that troubled Roham the most. He'd asked the team who the guy was with no answer. He'd already asked Ellis if there was more backup of which he was unaware. Well, Roham egged them. No, Jalen said over Roham's wire. We don't have an ID on that one yet. The driver is our person of interest. Ellis's firm female voice filled Roham's ear. The one with the beard like yours. Stubble. Roham's comeback was childish but unrepentant. He was angry. If Ellis hadn't nixed further fraternization, he'd be driving Angel home. Roham would have had the opportunity to mix, mingle, and gather information beyond the operational cover that stifled him. He would have had the chance to offer a young woman the protection she so obviously wanted. Whatever the reason, be it Ken Fisher or some other unwanted entity, Angel had come across like a woman afraid. You know, Jalen chimed in. Your beard looks more stubbly than you realize, depending on what day of the week it is. This Farhad is wearing a pretentious boutonniere too, and Roham broke in. You're pushing it, Jalen. It wasn't my idea to wear that flower. Another overbearing handler had made that call. Raking fall-away hair from his brow, Roham pressed against the leather seat at his back. He watched the Porsche with the same disinterest with which he'd surveyed Angel by the fountain. It was a forced disinterest, a total lie, but faking was one road to making it. He had to admire Angel's reversal of that afternoon. She hadn't planned to friendzone him yet, she had. She'd seamlessly set him down a peg, and more to maintain the upper hand. Clever is what she was. Clever, undeniably cute, and there would be nothing between Roham and Angel, not even if she was the innocent he imagined. Roham had nothing to give, certainly not to a young lady who spoke of ethics before saying boo. Roham had married the Bureau with cause. He'd made that singular commitment in the aftermath of his parents' killing overseas. A happily ever anything was just as hollow as envisioning his parents returning home. Who knew? Angel may still be playing him. She may have been awaiting Farhad's arrival from Lebanon. That wouldn't mesh with her having asked Roham to the party. Asking for help may have been Angel's way of doubling down on the sweet young thing image that was messing with his head. Sella Ellis may be a burr in Roham's saddle, and she was, but the blunt brunette had fresh perspective. He should welcome it. Okay, Jalen said. I'm out of here, but not soon enough. Brandy still riding you? Roham asked of Jalen's fiancée. Yes, Jalen answered. Engaged still isn't married. And work is work, Ella snapped. Hand me that last slice of pizza. You're the boss, Jalen answered while Roham waited. The Porsche pulled away from the curb. Shall I follow? Roham asked over munching pizza sounds.
Chapter 5. The Porsche hugged the winding roads like a panther. The precision machine rounded corners in seamless style until suddenly it didn't. Gears growled. Angel lunged forward in her seat. Her shoulder strap engaged but not soon enough. She clenched the hand grips as the car bucked and bolted only to repeat the sequence. Farhad took the next left. A series of shrill, ear-splitting whines led them to a dead stop. Wow. Angel winced at the leafy side of the road outside her window. Impossible, Farhad spat. No kidding, Angel said to calm herself. However, even with talk of Farhad and Dunia marrying, she found a breakdown very possible. Possibly planned, she qualified with a silent shriek. Was she overreacting? Visions of laughing men danced in her head, and there was nothing to be done about it. Are you all right? Farhad asked. I'm still here. Yes, and so am I. You know, I just bought car, Farhad went on. The liar who sold me this trash is going to hear from me. Porsches are notoriously high maintenance, Angel muttered to promote the benefit of doubt. Giving Farhad a pass took a boatload of prayer, but she tried. Angel tried not mooning over Roham's absence either. Silly wouldn't help anybody. Waves of want still crashed over her. That was better than an actual crash, she supposed, but the ache inside her bore further testimony to a mega crush. She wanted friendship, protection, and more from the man with only acquaintance on the brain. Meanwhile, she turned Farhad's way. Would the shadows hide her hunted look? Farhad grunted. I'm sure whatever is wrong is covered under factory warranty, Angel said. Business talk typically got her back on track. The dealership should guarantee the car for at least 30 days. I bought this thing used through a private party. Farhad's confession rang with shame, not the sentiments of a predator. Never again, he hissed as if his parentage had been grossly insulted. No. Maybe not. Angel ventured in an up note. She smoothed her skirts, feeling duty-bound to calm the man who was doing her a favor after all. What do you mean? Angel cleared her throat. It wouldn't be a breach of confidence to discuss open speculations about Crescent Circuit. That should cover any ethics issue. That said, you may not have to buy privately ever again. She left the term used out. I'm not following, he said. With Crescent Circuit getting such press, when the company goes public, she explained, emphasis on when. You'll think of this incident as a nothing. A simple blip. The jolts up her spine were tectonic shifts. Every hair on her head had a life of its own. Angel hadn't given Farhad the benefit of anything either. That was too clear. She was silently screaming. Freaking out. What woman wouldn't if she were parked on the side of a lonely road with a total stranger? Her mother would be having a fit. Farhad wasn't a complete stranger, though. He was Dunia's fiancé. The Nasiris were wonderful people. Angel filled her lungs full. Dunia's family were Angel's kind of people too, believing, respectful, dutiful, and everything a young woman could want in a family away from family. She exhaled. Angel pulled her clutch bag against her chest, seeking security. She pined after her sweater again. Of course it wasn't true, but the AC seemed to blow ice now. She hadn't had the nerve to complain, with Farhad already going out of his way. There was nothing amiss, however, nothing outside the Porsche's engine. This too shall pass, she counseled herself. Farhad switched on the hazard lights. He turned toward her. You have to believe me. I didn't plan this. No, I wasn't thinking that. Her saccharine calm sounded worse than accusations. I'd never think that. Never. She shouldn't, even though she unbuckled herself to run if necessary. I appreciate your confidence, but you're lying. Farhad's sheepishness was a plus. You're afraid, and I can't blame you. But... What? Angel asked as his voice trailed. I forgot my phone on my bureau when I left the hotel, he said. Sure you did, Angel thought. Paranoia drilled into her palpitating heart. The suave urbane Farhad was sweating now. Tiny beads on his forehead reflected the dash lights. His jaw muscles twitched in time with Angel's anxious imaginings. No worries, she forced herself to say. I have my phone. I have towing service too, through the company. I'll pay. Nonsense. The company will take care of it. I've never used the service since I have no car, but I was talking business tonight. She fixed her brave face in place, digging into her purse when her heart stopped. This wasn't happening. She tossed the contents of her purse as her jaw slowly fell. What is it? Farhad asked. My phone, it's not in my purse. He lifted a thick brow. You're forgetful too. No. She gagged on the Rock of Gibraltar. I had my phone when I arrived at the party. You're sure? I was talking to my boss when Dunia snatched it from me, hung up after a polite goodbye, and stuffed it into my purse. This purse? It's not here. Look again, Farhad advised in a shaky voice. There's nowhere to look. She opened her purse wide. With a nervous laugh, she inventoried lipstick, tissues, emergency cash, and her ID. Her pepper spray seemed more like a tic-tac in her present condition. The canister hadn't shrunk, just Angel's supposition that she could handle whatever came her way. But what to do? Should she arm herself with the spray? That would make sense if she was truly concerned for her safety. The cramped car did not allow for the defense moves her dad had taught her. Career concerns kept her frozen though. The next few moments could make or break her. Farhad was in no position to advance her career, not that she knew, and yet he could pose a humongous roadblock if she overreacted. If Angel failed to breathe, she'd pass out, so she filled her lungs to gain perspective. She'd sidestepped Ken Fisher's advances before. This was no different. It shouldn't be in polite society. What did that mean, though? Dunia had openly admitted there were grab hands at the party. Was Farhad one of those? He couldn't be. The Nasiris wouldn't send Angel out with an octopus. Certainly not one they intended to marry their daughter. There's no need to worry so, Farhad said with an amazing softness. He touched her hair. Angel jumped. She plastered herself against the passenger door. Farhad, she snapped. I'm sorry. Truly. She still fell short of grabbing her spray. It's fine. Whatever this is, though, I'm not. You're not interested, he finished for her. Yes, I gathered that, and neither am I. Dunia is the woman for me. Maybe that was it, Angel thought. Dunia. Do you know all the people you were talking with at the party? She asked. Hardly. Hardly why? Angel pressed. I understand you don't live here, but you have greater insight into family parties than I do. Nasiri parties go like this. A charity is chosen, invitations go out with a standing offer to invite others, then food and wine floweth. Makes sense if raising money is the point. Farhad frowned. What are you implying? Nothing really, Angel answered to avoid pot stirring. But feel free to make this up to me later with a list of the well-heeled power brokers you do know. She smiled all the while, wondering, could someone at the party want to derail Dunia's marriage? Would this someone go so far as to tamper with a man's car? Of course they would. Bad press ruined business deals all the time. The bigger the deal, the better. Why should a marriage merger be any different? A rival suitor may want to destroy Farhad's reputation. The future heiress could be stripped of fiancé and friend in a single blow, if Farhad was a player. This tempting scenario may also be a test. Well? Angel asked. Will you introduce me to your friends? I'll make whatever introductions you'd like. Farhad exchanged his dress jacket for a hoodie he'd drawn from behind his seat. Just stay put. I'll climb that bank of ice plants we passed. There are houses up there. Expensive estates with dogs and security systems lay within reach, and Angel should have called Uber. Then what? I'll get you home, he grumbled. If I can't get a homeowner to call for a tow, I'll try the zoo. There has to be a security guard or something. A dark blue car whizzed by. So much for good Samaritans. Sounds like a plan, Angel said. Let's go. The couple being seen together, scrabbling up an embankment, was not earth-shattering. It's a steep climb, Angel, even without those heels. I'll climb without them. And cut your feet? No, Farhad decreed as he had the right. I'll be congratulating myself if I make it without falling, but I won't risk you breaking your ankle or worse. You won't risk it? Angel challenged. Sorry if that sounds patriarchal. I understand that's not the way here. But that's not my way either. That car could have hit both of us, and I gave Dunia my word that you'd be all right. Do you always keep your word? She asked him. I try. So will you give Dunia a positive report about me? Does that matter? Of course it matters. He seemed offended. We're not officially engaged, you see. There's talk, but parents are parents. Be right back.
Roham had taken a U-turn after the next bend. He parked under cover of a shade-dripping eucalyptus to watch his mark, Farhad Nasiri. Where would spies be without shady trees? Sturdy handlers were necessary too. He may gripe, but Roham understood. He'd be ruined as an agent if not for Sella Ellis. She'd yanked the reins because he'd jumped the fence. Roham was still bucking inside his skin. His mind was full of Angel LeBlanc. The redhead violet lover was a virus. Now she was stranded on a dark, lonely road with some schmuck. The drive to protect surged through him. Whether Angel was friend or foe didn't matter. It should matter, conscience called. He gritted his teeth. The silhouette of a man exited the vehicle on the driver's side. Nasiri. Roham extracted night vision goggles from the glove box. He set them against the bridge of his nose. What was the guy doing? Was he making a dead drop? The zoo offered plenty of cover. Nasiri jogged in the opposite direction, however, toward the houses. Angel remained in the shotgun seat. She rubbed her temples and turned her head enough times to convince Roham something more than car trouble was going on. AAA had no restricted zones that he knew of, and Uber went everywhere and anywhere. He adjusted his goggles. Nasiri climbed the ice plants. Roham would follow. Angel wasn't the mark. He gathered his gear and exited his vehicle, keeping eyes on Nasiri. Roham would climb through the trees and pick Nasiri's trail up at the top of the road. Unless the guy slipped into one of the gated homes, for what Roham couldn't say. Meanwhile, Angel sat alone in the dark. The arrangement was more than odd, unless the breakdown was just that. Nasiri crested the embankment. Roham edged sideways into the trees when a honk erupted. Again, and again the horn blasted.
Chapter 6. A large bearded figure to the left of the car, quick stepped down the embankment with what looked like a handgun. Was he friendly? Could he be a private guard? Maybe. He seemed unfazed by her actions. Seems was no certainty, though. Angel gnawed the inside of her cheek and prayed for positives. Laying on the horn had been the natural response when she'd sighted the gun, but now. Farhad hadn't returned. She'd have company any minute, though, probably some guard who thought she'd be safer inside somewhere. She felt foolish. She'd get home. No worries. Not quite convinced, Angel focused on the road ahead where it disappeared into a droopy canopy of eucalyptus. The man with the gun was probably coming at Farhad's behest. He was armed because houses like those they'd passed came with guards, gates, and jumbo swimming pools. Hands in her lap, she craned around to peer out the rear window again. There was nobody there. Her brows twisted along with her stomach. Where was Farhad? Why wouldn't he return? He'd made a point of acknowledging her fears. Horrific imaginings rivaled sick, instant adrenaline surges. Midnight movie watching was getting the better of her. Farhad was calling a tow truck. That was it. He was calling an Uber, while someone from the house he'd reached came to assure her that all was well. The slam of her heart deafened her anyway. Angel plucked at her flyaway bangs when a second man appeared outside in the dark. A quick inspection sent her spiraling. The newcomer wasn't Farhad, not judging from the strapping size of him. This one was armed with a bazooka. Her small hairs danced. Benefit of the doubt threw itself out the window. She'd been slimed by Lucky, stranded by Farhad, and now preservation instincts kicked in. There was no help for it. If Angel made a fool of herself, so be it, but everything in her screamed hide. She grabbed her handbag, slung the strap over a shoulder, and bolted from the car. The silent zoo awaited, silent if she ignored random animal sounds that unsettled her stomach even more. An iron-slatted wall with a dense overhang of more pungent leaves barred her way from what shelter she may find. Angel ran toward the wall, begging God for a gate. She heard the men behind her. Dear Lord. Why hadn't they said anything? She had to have an audience. There had to be a night shift working at the zoo too. That's what Farhad had said. Her throat ran to sand. She'd take anyone's help, so long as they weren't 5 times her size and packing serious heat. But come on, logic reasoned. Had Farhad set her up? Was he that good of an actor? Was Angel really being stalked by 2 gunmen, or obliterating her future by way of histrionics? Dreamlike sensations fired her skin. Doubts tripled the effect, but Angel couldn't afford to do anything but run, not this time. The trees obscured more of the moon's light. Her ankles wobbled. The ground was pitted, weedy and crumbly with pebbles. Great. The combination shifted beneath her heels. Angel flung out her hands to keep from falling. Careful now or you'll mar that pretty face, a thick voice called. Her backbone stiffened. Barking laughter plugged her adrenaline sensors into overdrive. She ran, lungs burning, teeth rattling toward a gate that seemed a million miles away. Don't be afraid. We'll help you, the second gunman said. His sarcastic promise of aid electrified every hair on her head. Nobody was shooting, though. Why? What did they want? Where was Farhad? Angel twisted her head. Twin grins winked inside the bobbing silhouettes. She faced front. Her heel stuck and she fell headlong into pain. Another laugh sent daggers into her back. She gasped for breath and rolled over, removing both shoes. The sharp heels were weapons, she realized. Hugging them close, she stood with effort and kept running toward the wall.
Roham jogged onto the street. Gun in hand, he bolted toward the zoo with night vision goggles still in place. Angel was being hunted from what he'd seen of the 2 gunmen. Farhad Nasiri was nowhere in sight either. All signs pointed to Angel being set up. Had Roham truly blown his cover? Was Angel's predicament his fault? This hunting party was no happenstance, unless the plan was to terrorize Angel, but to what purpose? She may not be the innocent Roham believed. Loyalties may have shifted in the terror cell. New leadership may want Angel, a walking record of dealings, in their custody. Wired for sound, Roham communicated a redacted version of the situation to Ellis. One that leaned heavily on his guilt at having exposed Angel to danger. She'd already disappeared, taking Roham's confidence with her. What had Angel done or not done? Had she refused to talk? Refused to change sides? Culpability sliced his heart in two, whatever the case. The gunman clambered over the rough terrain in an almost lazy pursuit. "I'm protecting that girl, no matter what you say," he warned Ellis in the not-so-silent night. Wild animal sounds wafted toward him as he ran ahead. "You'd ruin your career," Ellis shot back. "You'd blow this up." She was disbelieving, naturally. Roham shared her sentiments. "Well," she demanded. "If I have to, I'll blow it all," Roham said. "The risk is mine and mine alone." He filled his burning lung, having reached the brush that swallowed Angel and her pursuers. "What more haven't you told me?" Ellis said. "How compromised are you?" "Guess. You have the experience. But those barking sons of those apes aren't chasing LeBlanc to discuss small arms agreements. That much I know." He didn't know, but now wasn't the time to get into those weeds. "I'm sorry," Ellis said. "Me too, but come on. Back me up here. You can bust me for it later." Forever passed, and so what? Roham swatted scratchy branches. "Just fire me. You can call local authorities then." "I can't do that, and you know it. Now go get her." "You mean that?" he snarled. "I said it." Roham smiled tightly. "Glad you're on board. You're a good agent, Arshad. We need you on task. Just don't get yourself seen." "I mean it." "I won't." "Good. That's what I wanted to hear. But someone else may call the police," she said. "And the inexplicable might go down, if I'm reading you right." "You read me perfectly," he said. "2 dead men in the zoo won't make headlines, though. Not in this town. Is there anything else?" The comm line was still open. "If this explodes, you're taking the heat. All of it." "I said I would." "Where's Jalen?" Roham asked in afterthought. "He's gone off to his brandy," Ellis answered. "His replacement went for more pizza. So if this goes south, you'll tell Dex that I tried everything to stop you. Clear?" "Crystal. I owe you." "Doesn't everybody?" Ellis said before going dark. Assassinating two unknowns may result from his night's work, or not if Roham could help it. Whoever was chasing Angel should be interrogated. Roham would volunteer for that duty, but he had to catch the gorillas first. Bushes, thorns, and more thorns threw themselves in his path. An elephant trumpeted in the distance. Roham found what looked to be a gate at the end of an old service road. The latch was broken. The gate swung freely, revealing a green-bathed landscape of pseudo-jungle with tall palms and endless leafy trees. Swoopy vines hung everywhere. More eucalyptus budded the other trees, and tropical flowers abounded, shrouded in shadows but fragrant as ever. The cement pathways split off the main road in every direction. Roham kept his gun at the ready and moved ahead. A ripple of water sounded by the flamingo exhibit. The animals were tucked inside their shelters, but the billboard with the vaguely pink bird identified the pond. The water was still now, but there was no sign of Angel. Had she waded through the water? Big cats yelled in the distance. Roham trained his ears over the hammer of his heart. "Shall we throw her to the lions?" a man shouted. Thank heaven. Angel was still on the loose. The goon spoke loudly to flush her out of wherever she was hiding. Roham hoped the guy kept it up. He hated the terror that had to be shredding Angel to pieces already, but voices lent Roham direction. He could take out both of the gunmen without her even seeing a thing if he was lucky. A loud laugh pierced the night. "Killing is not the job," another grunt called out. "But what a shame. I love watching lions eat. Their muzzles all covered in blood." Roham trained his senses on the trailing voice. He swept eyes across the bear pit as he passed. The giraffe's savanna-like enclosure came next. Had Angel crossed the searching gaze of a nocturnal predator? Lions and tigers should be housed in their pens too, but perhaps she was in the pen. The two-legged hyenas chasing her may throw Angel into a pit to hear them talk. But what reason could they have for stalking her in the zoo? Sexual assault seemed highly unlikely if killing wasn't part of the job. No. These were hired guns. Hired to do what, though? Interrogate he. Threaten her. Angel's predicament reinforced her case of hapless victim in Roham's eyes, and yet he understood that was only wishful thinking. Angel had been caught in a web of intrigue she'd no experience to discern, whatever her affiliation. Had she blackmailed Fisher? Was that it? Had that violet thing been a diversion, like Roham originally thought? "We know you're here," a goon called again. Which one, Roham couldn't say. "We hear your hot, eager breathing." Scrambling and a scream followed next. Roham bolted toward the cry. A brick of a man blocked his view of the entrance to the monkey house. Is that where Angel was? Raising his weapon, Roham crept close, then cracked the gunman over the head. A long gun hit the ground, the man still stood. He spun around. "I've got her," he shouted. "Oh no," Roham growled before lunging. The pair thudded to the ground. Roham wrapped a hand around the guy's beard and hooked him with a hard right. A fist pounded Roham's abs. Knuckles cracked his chin. The gorilla tore off Roham's goggles. He wrapped an iron leg around Roham's. Roham clapped a hand around the thick, sweaty throat. He squeezed hard. The guy gagged, and Roham forced more steel into his fingers. Gags turned to gurgles. The goon brought a boot heel down on Roham's ankle. He re-wrapped his constraining leg around Roham's, trying to roll him. Roham yielded to the action. There was more than one way to win a fight. Roham kept his grip tight, then swung wide before his spine hit the dirt. Holding on, he cracked the man's temple again and again. The guy's beard dripped sweat onto Roham's mouth. His knuckles burned. His teeth had nearly ground to the gums, but the fight finally drained out of the animal above him. Taut muscles went limp. Roham let himself breathe but waited. When he finally rolled the guy onto the ground, Roham cracked his skull once more, using the butt of the gun to ensure he'd stay down. Then he took the gun. "Sala. Sala. Where are you?" his partner called. The disdain mingled with random animal noises. Roham listened for Angel. The remaining gunman yelled. "Try the merchandise and you're dead," he warned. "This one's special." Roham stood. He keyed on the term merchandise. Had Angel been sold? Sex may not be what their boss had in mind, but rather an exchange of goods, information, or both. He prayed that Angel would hold on, whatever the plan. Slipping his goggles back into place, Roham entered the monkey house. He glanced all around. The gravely floor, a ceiling of flat cement, craggy walls, and glassed-in cages were treated to intense inspection. A smear of blood on glass turned his stomach. Going deeper, he followed the trail when a screech blasted. Shrill tones cut the air. A monkey plastered itself against its glass enclosure. The animal bared green glowing teeth. Roham swiped his brow. Where was Angel? He listened intently, but there was nothing. Gulping, he forged ahead. Finally, he sighted her. Angel huddled in a niche beside a brochure stand. She was making herself as small as possible against the stone wall. You're safe now, he said. It's me. Roham. He ripped off his goggles and tossed them aside, since there was no way to explain why he had them. He made his way toward Angel in the dark when wham. Pepper spray. Roham choked in the dark. Whatever it takes, Angel hissed. She trusted no one. I'll feed you to the lions if you come one step closer. Roham Arshad had no business being in the monkey house, unless he knew she'd be at the zoo. She told him that she'd be at the Nasiri's party, but that was all. Her world was upside down, and she'd only herself to make things right. Roham advanced in a crunchy step. Angel dodged his grabbing hand. She whacked him with a stiletto, over and over. He stripped the heel from her grasp. She snarled like the cornered animal she'd become. She'd survive. Angel prayed to survive, if only to stop pretending that she was made of titanium. God help me. Mom wasn't entirely wrong, and that truth made Angel ache for her. Mothers protected their young. Fought for them. Filled with fury, she swung a fist, but Roham found her wrist. Angel. Angel, it's me, he scolded in a low voice. She twisted free. So what? Why are you even here? It makes no sense unless why are you here, she asked again, pressing against hard cement. I'm your friend, he answered with audible frustration. I'm here to help. I'm trying, he groaned. Are you really, she snapped, despite aching to believe him. Yes, he answered, still holding his temper. How did you know I was at the zoo? She needed something to hang belief on. Roham could end her in this monkey house if he chose. Her pride was no defense, even though she'd like to think she had the mettle to stave off the worst. Say something, she panted. I came late to the party, and then... He trailed off. Then what? She demanded. You came to collect your merchandise. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. Was Roham the buyer? Whatever the answer, she prayed God to forgive her foolishness. Just say the words, Roham. She strained to hear possible danger over monkey howls, but the seething of her heart was the real thunder. I followed you and that guy in the Porsche, Roham admitted. Okay. Why? She tamped down a saccharine wave of my hero. Why follow me, Mr. Arshad? Jealousy. But we're only friends. She shook her pulsing head. Are we? He asked. Look. She sniffed up emotion. There's more spray in my canister, I'll bet, so no games, please. No games. I'm older. I was hesitant to feel something for someone so young. But whatever, there's another gorilla with a gun out there, Roham said with flat resolve. I don't need to bet. I saw him on the road with his partner, so we'd best be quiet, even with our monkey friends making a racket. What about the other one? She asked. He's passed out with the concussion I gave him. So you're sure you're not one of them? She asked as if that would prevent his lying. No. Roham grabbed her and she screamed instinctively. The canister in her hand clattered to the ground. Heady with dread, she jerked away. Roham pressed her flat against the wall with his muscled everything. You'll have to kill me first, she breathed. Her head swam with hideous futures, short futures. Dear God. Roham forced her to feel the weapon in his grip. Your gun is supposed to assure me? She spat, not knowing what else to say. He used that cajoling baritone. I'm not using this gun on you, Angel. That should earn me some points. That, and suffering your pepper attack. Now come on. We need to leave. Leave. He was right, Angel thought. She yearned to be home safe. Roham had done nothing to her. His warm fingers found her face. He smoothed her cheek without permission, dragging a thumb across her lips. The spicy cologne that had once romanced her terrorized her now. Still, her slamming pulse slowed. Roham took no liberties beyond brushing her cheek. Why do you have a gun? She said at last. I took it off the guy that I cracked in the head. Oh. He's passed out at the monkey house entrance, like I said. You're sure? She asked as the name Salah hit their ears once more. Terror seized her anew, but there were sirens too. Sirens and... Roham gripped her hand and yanked her past their shrieking audience. Roham marveled at his devilishly determined angel an age later as they sat in his car. With the second thug mysteriously disappeared, there'd been nothing to prevent them from leaving the zoo. Barriers to Roham and Angel dating had been obliterated too. Sella Ellis wouldn't pull Roham off the case. How could she? His diamond dog babysitter had given him approval to go after Angel. Sella Ellis had sent patrol cars with sirens whining by the zoo, despite what she'd said about keeping things on the down low. A battered Farhad Nasiri was being loaded into a handy ambulance before Roham and Angel hit the street. Ellis had to agree. The plucky gal with the amazing red hair would make the perfect asset. Angel could funnel the Diamond Dog's untold information on Fisher Enterprise, provided she was willing. Asking would wait, however. Lies and falsehoods weren't the best foundation for any relationship, and Roham, whatever his reasons, hadn't been forthcoming. His relationship with Angel was progressing, however. He had been jealous. The idea of loving someone, of wanting to let someone into his life, stirred his soul in ways he'd never experienced. With a swallow, he accepted that reality. The risks he'd once invited, he hated now, for her sake. Had he put Angel in danger? Was this midnight hunt his fault? Jalen had warned him about pulling Angel into his no-go zone. She rubbed her neck, instead of issuing serial apologies like she had since leaving the monkey house. Angel insisted on not reporting events to police, at least not yet. The possible whys behind her decision burned Roham's brain, but he'd agreed. Nasiri was sure to include Angel in any report once he reached the hospital. Unless he was part of the night's events. The road ahead was anything but clear, yet Roham anticipated walking it. Did Angel suspect Ken Fisher was behind her ordeal? Or was this ex of hers, Chandler, something involved somehow? An Ivy League control freak executive may have his own thing going. Either scenario cast Angel as an A-list actress. Her performance with that stiletto was Oscar material. Roham's everything hurt, but he'd protect his Angel moving forward, whatever her motives. He couldn't not shelter her. The dynamo needed a bodyguard. He captured Angel's shining eyes. "You're sure you don't want to file a report tonight?" Roham asked again, just to be sure. "You sure you don't want to go to emergency?" Angel countered with a playful slyness. "I'm okay," he grunted. "Despite your tenderizing efforts. But you've only got one good eye." "Is that so?" he teased, and it felt good. "Yes. The right one is a gushy red fountain," she said with a wobbly smile. "Just saying." "Thanks." "Just telling my pea-green friend the truth," she said. Roham ached to tell far more than he dared. "May I take you home?" he asked instead. "Well, since I need a cup of chai, my favorite blanket, and to thank you for calling that ambulance for Farhad, yes. I hope he's all right." "Me too. I have no idea if he's involved in what just happened, whatever that was, but I don't want trouble for Farhad if he's not." "You think he's innocent?" "I can't say. But Dunia is my friend. I trust her completely. Her family is generous, hardworking, and they deserve my loyalty. I'll let them know what happened, and tighten security on my end." "How will you manage that?" Roham asked. "I've met this guy, an investment counselor who, well, he's a little older than me." "Only a little?" "Please. Age is only a number." She patted her messy hair. "But anyway, this new pal is an expert in coming through when it counts." "I see. His new asset wasn't going to report anything, ever." "Do you see?" "Really? Will you keep this whole incident as hushed up as possible?" she asked, as if she still didn't trust him. "If you throw me a bone with a little meat on it, sure." "You've earned more than a bone," she whispered. "But money men are money men." "What does that mean?" "Will you use what I say for insider trading?" she asked with a flutter of lashes. "You're joking." "You'd better be," he said. "But no, never. I don't use private conversations for profit." "All right." Angel moved toward him across the console. What happened tonight was heinous. Beyond horrific. I'd be a puddle if it wasn't for pride. Pride? I don't want anyone seeing me melt, not even you, she said. And any hint of criminal activity, a word, a report, or whatever, would ruin any chance of Crescent Circuit going public. It would. You're right. Roham tried to sound like the investment counselor he wasn't. Prejudice may target a family that has no idea about what happened to me. No idea, he pressed. No, Angel insisted. What will you tell them about me? The truth. I was rescued by a friend, Roham suggested when her words drifted. More than a friend, I'm thinking. We'll see. Angel's lips touched his. It was a chaste kiss that seared him. Roham gripped her chin and kissed her in return, not as gently, but Angel sighed her approval. What would come would come. One thing was certain, though. Angel was heaven-sent according to every instinct Roham possessed, both personal and professional. Let's get you home safely, he muttered. I could use a cup of tea and some more thanking. But if you don't mind, I'd prefer being a nameless stranger in this scenario. I can't tell Dunia or Tina. Or your mother. No, if you don't mind. Roham started the car. He wanted information, not exposure. Do you mind? I mind. But throw me a bone and we have a deal. Coffeehouse heroes prefer their anonymity. I think the Bible mentions something about good deeds done in secret. Why, yes it does, Angel said with a grin. Yes it does.
And now a note from our author, Anne Malley. Dear friend, I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to Angel and Roham's highly dangerous liaison. The action doesn't stop either. Discover what happens between them by reading Fallen Angel, Diamond Dogs Book 1, available through Anne Malley Staycation Essentials on Shopify. Connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at Anne Malley Books, or email annemalley@annemalley.books.com. I'd love to hear about what you'd like to read. Stay safe. Anne.
Roham marveled at his devilishly determined Angel an age later as they sat in his car. With the second thug mysteriously disappeared, there'd been nothing to prevent them from